Good evening. We'd like to welcome you to the last show of the year. My name's Donnie Glover, and I'm here with some longtime friends, longtime colleagues. I think I don't know who I know the longest, Wayne Frazier or Charles Robinson. No, Charles has been hanging foot in my hind parts ever since the days of WEAA.
Wow, I remember that.
We had a great radio show. We won Baltimore's best talk show.
And Wayne Frazier, Minority Business Champion. He represents the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association. He and his wife, Pat, have been doing a number of events since COVID, particularly at Maryland Live. And so while we miss his breakfast, as a matter of fact, I talked to a lady today who had been coming to the breakfast. But although we don't have the breakfast at present, he's been banging them in the mouth at Maryland Live, having some wonderful turnouts. Morocco Coleman, down in Atlanta, my home away from home. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And greetings to everyone.
Good, good. So, Morocco, where are we as a community with respect to mental health?
Well, with respect to mental health, for me to speak on it, I would have to come from a veteran standpoint. And from a veteran standpoint, you're dealing with post-traumatic stress. So you have veterans like myself from the Vietnam War. Many veterans are still fighting, trying to get PTSD as a result of experiences in Vietnam. And now we have Afghanistan, Desert Storm, Iraqi freedom. And these veterans are coming back, and many of them are being ignored. Many of them don't realize what's befallen them and what they're suffering from. And it's the same type PTSD from the Vietnam War. So I'm working with the Veterans Court here in Atlanta as a mentor, and I continue working from a community standpoint with veterans suffering from these debilitating situations, and at the same time in dealing with veterans from all other issues affecting veterans, benefits, homelessness, etc. So that's the mental health aspect. Now, I would presume that I'm also seeing some residuals of post-traumatic stress from the general population as a result of the virus. So many of us have lost people that were friends or relatives, and every time it looks like we get a handle on this thing, something else fires up. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people are dealing with from the mental health standpoint, are dealing with the health standpoint that's affecting the mental health.
Mm-hmm. Charles Robinson, any thoughts on mental health in the Black community?
Absolutely. Somewhere in this conversation, you're going to get my top 10 Black news stories from 2021. And mental health is a part of that narrative, if you will, of this year. As my friend has just indicated, there are a lot of stresses out there, not just from the post-traumatic stress of being in a war zone, but the post-traumatic stress of living in urban environments across this country. One of my top 10 stories includes one that deals with this whole idea of murder in the streets. In major urban centers across this country, the number of murders are going up. And Donnie has been reading my top 10 list for at least 5, maybe 7 years. And I've been writing it since 2004. And every year I talk about this idea that we have a mental health crisis in our country. And it is something that people have dismissed, that people have, if you will, kind of like well, that's just the way Black folks deal with stuff. Well, that's nonsense. And I think the thing that a lot of us are not taking or not seeing is the stress of living in an urban environment, the stresses of not being able to find a job. Of course, COVID is even more taxing, especially for those who've been left behind. So when you talk mental health, I think the thing that a lot of folks have difficulty, especially in this time, first of all, there are not enough beds, spaces, and other, if you will, therapeutic places where if someone is having an episode, and I call them episodes, that, you can call someone. Our good friend Richard Rowe and I talked about this in a Zoom call one afternoon about the stress of losing someone in a COVID-19 environment. Think about how Black folks deal with death. First of all, it begins with a call to a pastor that usually starts off, my mama died, my aunt died, my brother died, whoever died. And they would normally say, I'll be by to see you. That's not happening in this environment. Think about that other part of that ritual. There's normally a wake where you would see the outpouring of love for that person you lost. The last part of that is probably my favorite part, and I'm always reminded of this with my late grandmother. I was about 7, no, I was probably 6, and I asked this simple question: why are all these people here? And then, of course, that's when you find out not the grandiose stories, but the stories that start off with, your mother gave me $100 when I didn't have a dime.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say the girlfriend showing up at the funeral. You getting
No,
too
no,
deep,
no, no, no.
Charles.
No, this is serious. This is serious. This
Okay.
is this is that moment when you find out the worth of people. I talked to a pastor down in Prince George's County, and he said that the mayor of Washington was standing next to him on the podium, and he had no idea that his parishioner, who was laid before him, knew this woman. And I think all of us hope that if we unfortunately meet our untimely demise, that somebody won't just remember the wonderful things that we did, but the small things we did.
Wayne Frazier, mental health and our businesses. Right now, if white America catches a cold, Black people catch pneumonia. If white people benefit from PPP, there's a summation that Black people don't get any PPP. And of course, that's not necessarily the case. But from a business perspective, how do you view the mental health of the Black community?
I would say it's pretty fragile right now because PPP hit, it shuttered so many doors. And then when numerous businesses sought help, unless you had a strong banking relationship, you were put on a hold list, a wait list. And there's only so long that you can wait. I would say 30 days at the most. And as a result, too many of the businesses failed just waiting for help to come. Now we're in potentially recovery. Things are going back to perhaps the way they were. But you can't muster the strength to move forward because that failure is still present. And it's going to take an awful lot of willpower, assistance, further assistance from our government to help our struggling minority businesses, particularly our African American businesses, because we weren't built on a stable foundation to begin with.
One more question for you, then we're going to go to Charles's top 10 list. Mr. Frazier, from a political standpoint, how are we as a community? How are Black people in Baltimore, in Maryland, in the United States, particularly given what happened down there in Morocco, state of Georgia, also what happened in South Carolina?
Well, we're at a stage right now, Donnie, where the next generation, the younger generation of African American leaders, politicians are coming forward. They're winning elections. And initially I said the jury was out. I think the jury has come in. In this short period of time, especially in Baltimore, it's about a year now since the new administration has come in. It's pitiful. There's very few solutions to any of the major problems that we have. And I don't like to be pessimistic about anything, but Donnie, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. And I don't see the solutions coming at all, from City Hall to the state's attorney's office, to the controller's office, to the president of the city council. I see things as they were last year, 5 years before. I see corruption still part of the game. Unfortunately, our African American leaders are caught up in that. It's a mess.
Hold tight, Charles. Morocco, how's it looking in Atlanta? Home of Stacey Abrams. You got a lot to celebrate there politically. Oh, shit.
City councils, president of the city council, and for the mayor's race. And it was rather bleak, because for the runoff, the vote was about 17% of the public voted for the runoff. And now in the final of the runoff, it was only 13% turnout. And so we had young man Dixon running for mayor, and we had Felicia Moore running for mayor, and she was the city council president. So now she was defeated in the run for mayor, which was more or less an upset. And the turnout, as I said, was only 13%. And to me, it looked like, well, we've had a black male mayor, and we've had black female mayors. And so these two now are evenly matched. And so it really doesn't matter which one gets in. It's probably going to be the same thing. So everybody just coasted. And then the city council position was filled by a white guy. And there were a number of city council members. One in particular was a lady that I've worked with closely over the years, Cleta Winslow. And she was the longest serving city council person, I think 27 years.
I told you she was my landlord when I was at Morehouse.
Right. And she was defeated after all these years. And so,
what?
Yeah. So there were a number of long-term city council members that were ousted from office. Well, a lot of people say, well, it's good, new blood. But in this political climate, do we want new blood that's got to get up to speed, or during this particular climate, do we want those that have been in there for a while to know where the bodies are buried and know something about running the city? So it's a bit of a flux right now. concerning this. So the young man Dixon won as the mayor, and he was coming off of the city council position too. So as far as I know, he hasn't had a big meeting as to which way we're going and what's going to happen. Maybe he's waiting until after the first of the year. So after the first of the year, we'll get a preview here of which way we're going with the city council, with the mayor, and have some direction. But right now, everything's just kind of quiet and we're coasting along. Now, you also throw in the fact that the Republican Party in the state of Georgia has, as you saw on the national level, they've put new laws in where you can't assist someone that's waiting in line in the long lines to wait to vote. You can't bring them food or anything to sustain them while they're waiting in these long lines. They're passing laws where basically the Secretary of State and some other officials associated with that position pretty much can have a final say in a vote for office and an individual wins, like in a presidential election from the last one, the past. If they don't particularly like who won, then those offices, the Secretary of State's office, can then affect that vote and say, well, we're going to take the public's vote away, and we think that it needs to be this or that. So it's all up in the air. We haven't seen it in action.
Let's shift to Charles Robinson. You cover Annapolis state politics. You are the senior journalist here in the state of Maryland. What sayeth you, Charles Robinson, on the realm of political progress for blacks in Maryland and nationally?
Well, first of all, I think there are places where there are promise. There are places where the status quo has not served us well, but I'm eternally optimistic. When I start to write my list, Donnie, I assess a lot of different kinds of things. And I'm going to talk real quickly about my assessment, because as future generations are looking at what happened this year, I think the thing that they will inevitably ask, how did we survive with all the calamities, challenges, and outrages? And I think the simple answer is we have to. Think about this. The big pictures and the big shows and things that we were looking at, I think the simple answer is we're not satisfied. That's what all of us are saying. We're not satisfied with the status quo or whatever that new individual is. There are things that were beyond our control, both domestically and internationally, which influence my list, my top 10 lists.
Okay, what are they? Come on with it. Come on.
Okay. So I'm going to guess that most of the people on this call or a scribble have no idea who Travis Scott is. If you do, raise your hand.
He's a young man who got killed.
Right. Travis Scott was the guy who had a concert in Houston at Astro World. 10 people were killed. Think about that. And you know why they were killed? Because people rushed the stage. And guess what? He kept performing. Let me tell you what his answer was when he said, why? He said, I didn't know. That's unacceptable to me. Probably the thing that really ticked me off about this was the fact that the former mayor of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlins Blake, was representing him and went on television to say he didn't have nothing to do with that. I'm going to call BS right now, okay? That is, she fired him. Well, he fired her. Let me say it that way. The other one is a person you know, Nicki Minaj. I don't know about y'all, but if you got money, if you got popularity and fame, that does not make you an expert. Come on. Y'all know this. Y'all heard folks say when she said she couldn't go to the Met Gala, you know what she actually said? She said an unidentified cousin's friend in Trinidad who was dumped at the altar by his wife because the vaccine, presumably COVID-19, allegedly made his testicles swell. Get the heck out of here. I don't really want to hear that. So the last one of number 10 is somebody I really have become to really like. And that's Megan Thee Stallion. Don't get me wrong. I'm about ready to get me some of the daggone hottie sauce that she's talking about. Okay. But what really got her on my number 10 list was the fact she went to Texas Southern University and she got her degree. And it wasn't in music. It was in health administration. And you know why she did it? That was because of her mama and her grandmother told her, we need you to go out there and do it. And that was just number 10.
I'm confused about the image. Isn't she like
she's a stallion. Look, that's why she calls herself Megan Thee Stallion.
Shows off the body.
You know what?
I don't know. Help me out. I don't really know.
Well, here's that thing.
What is she? Is she a singer?
No, what she is she's an entrepreneur. Think about this. This is a woman who wasn't on anybody's radar screen. She hooked up with everybody from, get this, Cardi B to Beyonce. So what do you do with that? You sell 1 million, what do they call them now? They don't even call them records. They call them what? Downloads, okay? So she made a little bit of money. But she parlayed that in to get this, getting a daggone national contract for Popeye's chicken. Let me just say this. If you ever watch those Popeye chicken ads with that lady talking about, I want you to get some, let me tell you, there's a bunch of white folks running there. But they saw her and said, we can tap into a different kind of audience that's not coming to Popeyes. Trust me.
Charles, I just got to tell you, when I think of a Dave Chappelle and the stance that he made, he was not for the buffoonery. Are you telling me that we now have to sell our young people to do whatever they have to do to make a buck?
Donnie, here's that simple disclaimer I always give with this list. You know what it is. It's my list. If you want your own list, make it up.
I have one. I do have one. I just wanted to give you time. That's your final response? Megan Thee Stallion ain't calling no shots over here, okay?
She ain't got to.
She ain't.
She ain't got to.
We don't hold her in high esteem. We don't hold her. And we don't take advice from rappers. We don't take political advice from rap artists.
This is the beauty.
Come on now.
The beauty of the diversity of Black thought. To give an example, Wayne, back in the day, if somebody told you, if you said you like Huey Newton, what'd your mama say?
Huey Newton.
That Negro is ignorant.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So that was number 10.
Let's reel you back in. Okay. What's been on your mind lately? No, not you, Mr. Frazier. How's racism in the state of Maryland?
Well, Donnie, I've been critical of my blackness, that I am too black.
No, you're not. You're not black enough.
In my views towards business, economics, in particular, towards education, towards vocational education. But I believe that our race deserves better, deserves much more than what we've been dealt with. We built this country, and yet we live in the conditions. I was just down on North Avenue today. You know North Avenue.
North and what?
Down in near Micah. And I was greeted by, it had to be 10 young Black men vying to clean off my windshield. It was frightening because I couldn't tip them all, and I didn't want any to touch my vehicle. As a matter of fact, I pulled up too far, and one of the young men said, "Hey, you need to back up. You blocking my way to get to the other cars." I'm saying, whoa. I said, "Well, Wayne, don't say nothing. Just give him a few dollars and move on. There's no future in that."
I thought you were going to talk about the white panhandlers at that very same corner. Now, they intimidate me because when a white man got the heart to walk up to me on North Avenue while I'm driving, he's either crazy out of his mind or he's just stupid.
Yeah, but Donnie, it's bad for the city. I live in the city. It's terrible for the city to pull up on any of these major thoroughfares on these corners and be bombarded by these young men.
Well, let me tell you why the white panhandlers are worse. Because they get their money and then they come over to Pennsylvania Avenue and buy the dope, and then they want to go into a vacant house and shoot the dope. So they are even worse. And Fox need to pull them up because they all around here, and you tell them come to my house and I'll take them on a tour.
Not the point. It's not the point. I'm talking about our youth, our future. There's very little hope, Donnie. And again, I don't want to sound pessimistic about any of it, but the truth is what we see every day. Now, business-wise, I just don't see an effort coming from our leaders to assist our young, struggling business people. They have this slogan now where they're taking photographs of individuals buying Baltimore. It goes beyond that. And I don't see the energy coming. And I'm 70 years old. I don't have much time left before I'm leaving. By the way, my wife is terrified living in Baltimore. She won't leave the house after dark now. You know, it gets dark at 5 o'clock. And then she's worrying me, "Well, Wayne, you need to come home. I heard something." But that's what this city has become. We're prisoners within our own homes because these juveniles have taken over. Donnie, the dirt bike gangs, they just keep rolling up and down Liberty Heights and my street, Powhatan. And they don't fear anyone.
Well, you come on down here to Pennsylvania Avenue, you're going to see it get even worse. Gentlemen, we've just been joined by the one and only Judge Leonia Lloyd, straight out of Detroit. Say hello, Wayne Frazier. Say hello there,
Hey,
Charles Robinson.
Hi, everybody.
Judge, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time out. Any thoughts? Let's go with you on the mental health of Black people.
Well, COVID's not helping any of that, okay? That's number one. And, you know, it's when you look at a situation where there's a lot going on in our race where there's lack of the promotions and things like this, and with all of these shootings and how the police are acting, et cetera. And, you know, that's why folks are marching and doing the things that they're doing to say, hey, we matter, and it's a negative thing. It's like a cloud, and that cloud continues to walk with you, when you are, and I used to say this, and I understand how people can feel. When I was younger and I was a lawyer, going with my mother to the store, the only person the white guard followed was me and my sister and my mother. And my sister was getting angrier and angrier by the minute. Okay. She was a firecracker. And so, when we got up there to the counter, my sister told my mother, if you didn't really want this stuff, I would just drive us somewhere else and get it, because people got to respect me. They got to respect my money. And so you get this real negative feeling. Why are you looking at us? When the real people stealing, you overlooking them, okay? Because they're not the same complexion that we are. And my sister started fussing at that counter. she's talking to me, and she's talking about the guard. And so the girl who was white was also trying to interject into the conversation. And my sister said, was I talking to you? She said, this is an A and B conversation. See your way out of it. And Leonia said, you are there where you are, and I am here where I am. She said, and there's a reason for that. She said, just do your job. Bring my mother's stuff up. My sister was angry. She didn't want to hear commentary. She didn't want to hear any excuses of a white girl telling her why it was all right for this man to follow us like that. So, now you come up in today's society and it's worse. It's worse when you say, hey, if I was looking at something on TV and the kid, the mother was talking and she said, we were having lunch. He's in college. He met me for lunch. And she said, and he had his book bag and he put it down by his foot. And she said, when we finished and he was getting ready to dash off, she said, Mama, I left my bag. And he, runs back in to get it, which is normal because you don't want somebody to steal your bag, right? And so she said immediately, slow down, don't run. She thought her son might get shot just because he was running. And he was a black male. Okay. So there are a lot of different things that have not gotten better, that have gotten worse, but now that attention is being put on it. And now that, officers, et cetera, and everybody else got their cameras out, you can't make up stuff. You can try. But, then it becomes, do we have a jury who's really going to listen and really see what the truth really is, not what you want it to be?
Well, that's a great segue, Judge. You got two cases in Minnesota, one Kim Potter and then Derek Chauvin. All of them were convicted. Down in Georgia, where Morocco is, Ahmaud Arbery, New Brunswick, Georgia, guilty on all counts. Any thoughts on this mental health aspect as it relates to criminal justice and white people finally catching time for the things they've been doing to us and have been previously getting away with, including murder?
Well, I don't know about the mental health of white folks, but I know for the black folks, they're beginning to see a little bit of the fact that justice can start prevailing. If we've got juries that are going to be honest and really look at the facts as they really, really are and as they are given to them, not try to make something materialize that really you didn't hear anybody testify to. So when it comes to situations like that, yes, that makes, black people feel happy that some of these verdicts came out the way they should have come out. But then they also have that thought in the back of their head, is this just a 1 or 2 or 3 time thing, or is there really going to be a monumental change?
Let me shift over to Atlanta. Morocco, how's the sentiment there in Atlanta when you consider Ahmaud Arbery guilty on all charges, the father, the son, the neighbor? Oh, shit. I got me.
We were a little concerned, about how that verdict was going to turn out. They kept throwing little curveballs in, and we're seeing across the country in many of these cases where it's the individual, the black person, that really brought it on themselves. If he hadn't run from the shotguns being aimed at him, he wouldn't have brought it on himself. You had one the other day where the guy, I think it was in Minnesota, where the female cop shot the guy and thought she had a taser.
Kim Potter.
Yeah. And the defense said that the guy brought it on himself. He shouldn't have tried to run, and so they use the reverse psychology. Right. I'm optimistic as I see justice finally taking place on the national level through through cameras and videos that are helping greatly. But now I can remember a time when you had the film and it didn't make a difference. So right now I'm cautiously optimistic as to where we go from in the future with these type of cases.
Wayne Frazier, you optimistic?
I told you before, I'm always see the sun shining. I'm optimistic that given time, we will prevail. But our leaders, our African American leaders, they have to lead for us as well, not for everyone. We're the ones who put you in office, so don't forget us.
So how do we choose a governor? We're trying to get a black governor still here in the state of Maryland. They're trying to get a black governor there in Georgia. How do we get a black U.S. senator? How long do we have to wait? Or do we need to join the Republican Party?
Well, Johnny, I would never join the Republican Party. Never, ever. That is the party of Donald Trump and white supremacists. And I will never, ever stoop to that level to join the Republican Party. It has to be done within the Democratic Party, period.
Well, they keep ignoring us.
I'm still optimistic, Donnie, that one day the right leaders will emerge and we'll be able to move forward. Perhaps it's Wes Moore here in Maryland, because he doesn't come with any baggage whatsoever. He is not part of that backslapping or stabbing, smacking, good old boy patronage party. He has not been a part of any of that. And if we have any hope at all, it is with him as our next governor.
Can you go straight from nowhere to governor?
Well, Trump went from nowhere to president.
He's white.
That's a good point, Donnie. But here's the remarkable thing. The county exec in Anne Arundel County, white guy, he's endorsing Wes Moore. The county exec in Prince George's County, she is backing Wes Moore. I imagine the county exec in Baltimore County will do the same because they're all tied together. So I see it as a path.
Oh. You saying he's related to O'Malley?
What? No, they're related. They related in the.
Oh, don't twist your face up, Charles. We didn't got reports that O'Malley's people that showed up at a couple fundraisers.
And I'm supposed to do what?
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Mr. Frazier. Anthony Brown, Martin O'Malley's teammate for 8 years, decided to leave Congress and get out there and run for Attorney General. He wasn't in the race longer than Jamal's congressional campaign before Katie O'Malley come out the woodworks and said she's running for Attorney General. And the way they say it on the streets is Martin sent this woman out there to fight Anthony Brown. I'll take your response now.
Charles?
I'm a political reporter. I don't write those kind of stories.
Can you believe that Katie O'Malley came after Anthony Brown, Charles?
Yeah, look, let me make something clear. I cover a lot of different kinds of candidates. I have had people who are on the fringe. I've had people who are in the mainstream. I listen. And in listening, what I often find is that you either appeal to a particular constituency, and you can use your violin if you like, but here's that thing that anybody who's ever run for office,
Marsha named it white folks magic. That's what you're doing.
No, that is not true. First and foremost,
Come on in
is
here,
that you got to
Marsha.
put your name on a dotted line. Until you do that, you're not a serious candidate to me. So to give you an example, none of these candidates that you've talked about have signed anything. And if you don't put your name on a dotted line, you know what you're doing? You're ifing and wishing. Now, you want to come to me after you sign it, then we can have a serious conversation. So I take none of this stuff seriously until someone says, I have signed the paperwork. Because I can tell you right now, and you already know this, and all of you know this, until you sign on the dotted line, you can say all kinds of, I'm going to make it well, I'm going to make it better. But that don't mean crap. Sign the paperwork.
What else you got on your list, Charles?
Okay. How about something fun? Number 5. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you what it's about. The things I saw on the screen. And let me tell you, I'm going to point to 2 black and white films that if you haven't seen, you ought to see them. The first is Marie and Malcolm. It stars Denzel Washington's son and Zendaya. Let me tell you, it is the sexiest thing I've ever seen on a screen without any sex. The other one is Passing. For those of you who know what it is a duality that you will have a lot of difficulty with if you are, because you got to live in 2 worlds. The last one I want to talk about is something I actually did a radio show about, the Summer of Seoul, 1969. I think all of you are old enough to remember that particular year. Mm-hmm. It was a changing time. Remind yourself, it was the Harlem Festival in New York City. During that festival, a man landed on the moon. And guess what? Black folks didn't care that somebody had landed on the moon. In that infamous poem by Gil Scott-Heron, Whitey on the Moon, my sister Nell got bit by a rat. That's something that I thought should be on this year's top 10 list.
So, Judge, what you been up to? What's 2022? What do you want for 2022?
Well, I really want, for the worldwide situation, I really want things to change, probably faster than what they're going to change. But I feel some hope when I do see verdicts come in the way they should be coming in. I want to see more of that. I want to see that be the norm, okay, not an exception. I want that to be a reality. Just like our guest said earlier, that there was a time when we saw stuff filmed, and in California, I believe it was, and he was beat and beat and beat and beat, and it's like everybody just knew, everybody saw this, and for the jury to come back the way they did, it was like, now that's when you can say deep-seated depression fell in our chest. I mean, you felt that, like, what do you need? What kind of proof do you need? But now, with the advent of the cameras that the officers have to wear and can't manipulate, okay, because that's very important, and when you cut it off and on, and if in fact they have the kind that will come back on after a certain period of time has passed, so many minutes, because you're trying to cut something off, and officers don't, they vote on that stuff about whether they want it or don't want it and all that. The thing is that, yeah, if you are acting like an officer should, that is there to protect you as well as to protect the citizens. I mean, it's going to say this is what happened. And if you are on the right side of the law, and if you are administering the law out there on the streets the way you should be, and if you respect the people that you serve, shouldn't be afraid of a camera, shouldn't be afraid of it at all. But because we've had a culture where there were no cameras, officers said what they wanted to say. And I've heard testimony come in my courtroom when I questioned about, a lady said, I want to admit that I was out there. I'm going to plead guilty to being out there disorderly conduct. But what I'm not, and Judge, and I want to address this with you, she said, he called me a black bitch.
Mm.
And he said, black bitch, get over there. And she said, what did I do for you to call me out my name? She wasn't talking back to the officers. He had said, women line up over here, men line up over there. And that's what they did. So you don't have, so I looked at the officer. I said, did you do that? And he looked at me. I said, did you do that? It was a white officer. And he looked at me, turned red in the face, and he said, I probably did. I said, ain't no probably. Did you do it or not? And when he finally said, yes, I did, I said, why? Why did you disrespect her and call her out of her name when she gave you no reason? And he said, you just have to, live up to the street toughness out here. And he said, so I got to use the language that's used that I have to deal with. I said, no, that's no excuse. This lady didn't come at you with no language. So there was no reason for you to use that with her. So now that we have cameras, you see that kind of rationale that it falls at the wayside, because you're going to be filmed about what you say to somebody. And it's not going to be you say whatever it is that you want because you're out there and you're the king of the jungle. Like I said before, one of your shows, when one of those verdicts came in, it shows that the officers are now touchable. You're going to be touched. You're not untouchable anymore.
Charles,
Okay?
you buying that? Justice is the #1 story in America?
Absolutely. The judge lays bare what Black folks have been wanting for eons, that we just want the ability to tell our stories and get justice as the lady who's holding the scales blindly, without prejudice. And I think that this year, a lot of Black folk across this country, from Michigan to Georgia to other places that we don't know about, people received a hearing and got what they sense is a semblance, if you will, of it isn't just their way. It is the right way. It is a difficult pill for those in power to swallow. And because it is often seen and rejected by the majority community as, see, they just giving them their turn. Well, I don't believe that. I don't think the judge believes that. No. What we want is the ability to go before a higher authority, lay before them our case, and get a jury of our peers, not of an all-white jury, but a jury made up of a community of people that can look at the evidence, weigh it, and come back with a verdict that resolves a particular incident.
Morocco, before we close out, any thoughts on January 6th? We haven't touched that. We're coming up on a year. You're a veteran. You are a patriot. You risked your life fighting for this country during the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. What do you think when you see some people trying to hijack one of our federal buildings?
Yeah, well, they need to be jacked up to the full extent of the law. And I'm watching this, the hearings, the little bit that they're making known. It was interesting when I found that at least 220 people have been interviewed before that committee. And Benny Thompson out of Mississippi, I think, is doing a heck of a job as chairman of that committee. And you see some of the Trump holdovers that are attempting to use the office of the presidency as protection from them having to come forward. They're protected and don't have to come and testify. They're slowly seeing that is not standing up in some of the courts, and that they're having to now be brought in, and some will face. And Jan, Judge, I want to ask you, some of these people can be held in contempt of court, and is that up to and including jail time?
Yeah, when you get held in contempt of court and, they have a hearing on you, yeah, you can get some jail time on that. The bottom line is, and I'm agreeing with what you're saying, because my fear is that I was so happy to know, first of all, that they were going to look at this event and start having hearings. Okay. Yeah. And they've got to carry it out. For those who don't want to talk, take the steps necessary. If they got to go to jail, let them sit in jail. They're not too good to sit behind bars. The bottom line is that if we don't check it now, we don't check this, it's going to come back again if you don't like who is voted in. If, say, for example, Biden gets voted back in again, and they don't like it, they're going to tear up everything and keep tearing up everything until you get it the way you want, and nothing, and be damned with everything else. And whoever gets hurt the next time, who really gets hurt out here, okay, they may come back the next time ready to really shoot and kill. Okay, so it can get worse and worse till it's just a bloody hill up there. Okay, it'll be a bloody hill. They've got to stop them. They've got to stop them now with these hearings.
Before we get out of here, Judge, do you have your book with you nearby?
I sure do.
Morocco, you got your book nearby? We got to sell a book.
That's called the shameless plug. Where's the shameless plugs?
My book is titled Coming Full Circle.
Ladies first.
This is my book, Your Honor, and I've gotten 4 awards on this book, and I'm really proud of it because it's about my sister as well as myself. But even more so, it's about people knowing the greatness that they have inside of them. And they think they can't do something. They can't, too much time has passed by. I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm too that. Get away with, just put away the excuses. Understand you can do whatever you set your mind to. And you just have to start developing a plan. And in here, I talk about how Leonia and I did a lot of things that we had never done before. And it didn't matter to us that we didn't do it. The number one thing is that we're going to bone up on it to make sure we know how to do it, associate ourselves with people who were already ahead of us as lawyers, etc., and make the changes happen. And, not sit up there and dwell upon, well, I've never did a contract like this before. No, that didn't matter to us. It didn't matter. Nor did it matter at the time. We didn't even have an office. We were operating out of our kitchen table, but only to get an office in the best building in the city of Detroit, the Renaissance Center, right after we negotiated an unprecedented contract. Now, that just tells you these two girls went against the odds. And we had a lot going on in our life that, emotionally with our family, et cetera, it can't stop you. It can slow you down, but you have to say, I am going to do this.
I gotta steal the mic back from you. Come on, Morocco, plug your book.
All right, my book titled Coming Full Circle. And
come on, keep it still.
And it starts off chronicling me getting off a plane in Vietnam. And I take you on Vietnam missions with me. I let you see my friends. I let you see combat. I let you see what happened over there. And to give some insight to what happened to uncle, brother, cousin, friend that came back. I came back to Atlanta. I went on with life. And then all of a sudden I hit a wall and didn't know what was happening. Went through a divorce, lost everything. Ended up homeless for 2.5 years. And found that I was suffering from something called post-traumatic stress disorder. As a result, I had to fight those battles of Vietnam in the streets of Atlanta. And finally, I got it together, and I ended up as the assistant director for the Office of Veterans Programs for the Georgia Department of Labor Office of Veterans Program for 131 offices throughout the whole state.
And you're a dear colleague of Delegate Tiger Davis here in the state of Maryland.
Yeah, Tiger Davis is a good friend of mine. We both chair different committees on the Congressional Black Caucus Veterans Brain Trust in Washington, D.C.
Okay,
And
we got to
so-
wrap this up, Morocco. I got the
Well,
question.
first of all, I want Donnie to plug his book. Donnie, what's the name of your book?
I've been retired 21 years, and I help veterans and others and families of veterans with their benefits, etc. Thank you.
Okay, let the host plug his book, please. Go ahead, Donnie.
I Am Black Wall Street. And Charles, I hear that you like 1619. Well, in my book,
1619.
you're getting ready to plug the book 1619, but if you get this book,
No, I'm not plugging the book. I
okay,
said that my
let me finish.
personal.
You just told me plug the book.
No, I
we
want to
know-
plug your book. I want to plug I Am Black Wall Street.
We note that the first blacks came in 1525. They escaped and went over to the Gullah Islands. So we were here before 1619. So those famous black people on TV need to get their damn dates right. Okay, Wayne Frazier. Don't say I didn't give you a chance to say one more thing. Come on now, because I got both y'all Leos, you and the judge, and I ain't trying to get chased down tonight.
Well, I just want to wish everyone a
I am not used to this all relaxed Wayne Frazier. I'm used to you being a hell raiser. What's the problem?
Donnie. We're approaching the end of the year, and 2021 has been wonderful for my business, not so wonderful for others. And I just pray that 2022 will open up opportunities even greater, and especially with all of that stimulus money that's coming in for the infrastructure.
What's the name of your company?
It's the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association.
Okay, Big Brother Charles, you got the final segment, final word.
Well, first and foremost, may all your new year be prosperous, and that remain eternally optimistic, because it is defeatist to be pessimistic.
That's right.
To be optimistic is to believe that there is something better, and each one of you have found that in your own unique way.
That's it?
I agree.
Damn, okay. I just knew he was going longer than that. That's a warm-up for him, Wayne Frazier. Well, I want to tell you, it's been a pleasure. I want to thank especially the judge and Morocco. These are my newfound friends, Wayne and Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson has been mentoring me for 20 years. Mr. Frazier for about as long, particularly in the realm of business. Now, the judge down there in Detroit, she's been a breath of fresh air in our lives on this network. And hello to you, Judge, from Marcia Jews, my radio wife. Morocco has helped veterans here in Maryland since I've known him. I've put him right on the phone, and he gets them linked right up. And that's what we got. This is Black Wall Street. Charles, this right here is Black Wall Street.
And you and I have talked about that. There are Black Wall Streets all over this country. In pockets where Black folks gather, they find ways to pool, to cajole, and to bring their resources to bear, hopefully, to bring a better life to those who don't have that life in the beginning.
Amen.
May the good Lord bless each and every one of us, between me and you, while we're absent. Till the next time. Thank you, and happy
Peace.
2021
Be
and
safe.
a powerful 2022.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.